Hi, everybody. We're here with the November Open Mic for Smoke Long Fitness. Now, this is open to the public, and it will be on our YouTube channel so that people can see what we're doing in Smoke Long Fitness. Today, we have lots of readers, and I've got my trusty cap here with the names in it, and we're going to start with 4 readers, and I'm just going to pick them randomly out of here. And so, Alyssa, are you here? I haven't seen Alyssa. Well, we'll keep Alyssa there because Alyssa normally has to go last. I don't know. But Andrea Marcusa, are you here? Okay. I'm getting all those out. Dave, I've seen you. Okay, so Dave's our first reader. Okay, yeah, I love going first. I don't know. Is Shira Musicant? Is Shira Musicant here? We'll see. We'll start with Dave, and then I'll see about the next 3. Dave Nash likes to write on gray trains to rainy Mondays. Dave is the nonfiction editor at 5 South Magazine. His work appears in places like South Florida Poetry Review, or as we say, Slow Flow Pojo, Mini Mag, Jake, and Persimmon Lit. You can follow him at Dave Nash Lit 1 on Twitter. Okay, or X. Hi, hey Dave, what are you going to read?
Thanks, Christopher. Yeah, so I'm gonna hopefully read. I'll read 2 flashes, pretty short. The first one I wrote in Smoke Long Summer. It was in the section that we did on syntax, and I got it published earlier this month in Persimmon Lit. So here we go. Alligators on iceberg. We don't have time, you say to me. Our children need diapers, Pop-Tarts, and a device charger. I can hear our oldest chomping at the baby gate. Daddy, Daddy, Gator's gonna eat me, our overnight bedwetter scream. He wants to eat me. I'm like an iceberg. Below the surface, I'm unprepared for the Titanic sailing towards me. The collision will break me into 1,000 pieces, and the Titanic will get all the attention. You tell me we need to give them clothes, meds, make school lunches. I say to our youngest, gators in captivity eat rats, and nobody likes a rattletail. Then I have to run to catch the train. The morning is gray, the train is gray, the platform below my legs is gray. I avoid my neighbor's eyes. I'm not ready to converse with my son's friend's mother. So I focus on the pale yellow headlights headed towards us until I become one with the crowd. A crowd of costume masks waving props, smartphones, styrofoam, coffee vapors, waiting for it. The train's wind blows through our genuine leather skin. We bow our heads in gratitude and bristle in acceptance. It takes us behind backyards and back lots, separated by corrugated and chain link fences, divided by culverts and spillways and highways. In the quiet car, we cultivate a library atmosphere. Over our phones and occasional books, we glance at the swamps and the dumps and the scrap yards. We blur concrete, brick, junk car smokestacks together until we go under. On the other side, we are dismissed into the bright bustling. Like a male alligator, I'm a territorial creature. I sprawl crawl up the escalator. My belly hovers inches from contact. I rush to mark my territory with Keurig coffee and chewy granola. I begin the ritual clearing of the paper jam to practice appearing invisible and immersed, like a gator or that iceberg. But today we have a rogue employee, I'm informed. What do you know about that? The guy I report to asks me. Maybe we should call HR and notify compliant, I say. Nobody likes a rattletail, he says. So I sniff around, go to the men's room, make more coffee, think creatively. When I come back to the guy I report to, I tell the truth slant. The rogue is in the supply closet. I double checked with the custodian. That's brilliant. Nobody goes in there. Excellent work. He pauses as if he could think profoundly. You know, that rogue could be in there making a bomb out of that Lysol, an off-brand non-dairy creamer. That would put us all out of a job. Well, you know what to do then. The supply closet isn't such a bad place. The rogue who occupied it before me was an organizer, but I like my coffee black. To pass the time, I clean out deprecated printer cartridges and pumpkin spice K-cups. On the way home, I feel part of a new crowd. Otter-like, we break through the surface to float back on the ice floes to our abodes. We chill in the nightly current as the conductor announces our neck of the woods. When it comes time for me to return to you, you're on your pad in the living room. I feel the floorboards warp under my feet. You say you hear birds settling into their nest in the chimneys. And our little pollywogs? I ask. You tell me they swam away during the day for bigger fish in larger ponds. At least I'm still in one piece. Let's have a drink, you say. Our ice cubes clink. We're like old strangers meeting for the first time again. Then our tension thaws. Tomorrow, I'll skip the train and we'll have time. So then I want to I'm going to read another one. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's also, I wrote it a couple weeks ago, and it's also about catching the train. So I thought it would be a good fit. Um, it's called Someday I'll Walk in the Rays. One day I'll walk without routine, without coffee and the chill before the sun. One day I'll walk without lists, without rhetorical repetition, but with notes of the vibrant colors of the sun rising like the burning leaves fluttering in my heart. That day, I'll put it all in a boat with a saltfish prayer, like the Japanese monks who shove off for the Pure Land. Today, I walk to catch the train. On the tracks, we're high enough that the town looks like a postcard, quiet like a blanket, tucked in from the frost, patching the roofs and icing car windows. Real life is one, so cold that it sticks to the tracks like a tongue to a flagpole. Two, so transient that it passes by like an old man sleeping on a bench. And three, so ephemeral that it evaporates like a chilled breath in the depth of November. The train starts towards us against the blank cold of the morning. The tracks are A, removed from town, are B, removing us from town, and C, are moving under the train's friction. Everyone waiting dresses in grays and blacks, in fabrics of wool or synthetics, cashmere, herringbone with black and white checks, merino, Gore-Tex, Arc'teryx, suited for the office politics that sucks the context out of our loves. People brush past me with thousand-yard stares into empty promises of their apps, delusions and distractions from disappointment, anything against this empty wind of the passing train that leaves us at the vanishing point where the tracks unparallel and blend gray of the railbed into the gray of the morning in the endless sprawl of the turnpike state. In the Dylan song of creation, where no one who sees my face lives, two men talk, waiting for spring, while the train comes down the track. You make shoes and go barefoot. They call it good. Creation drives the troubadour like anyone else. The people dive into their apps to experience. They've shunned the troubadour, the vagabond, and the postcard artist. To find creation, they've abandoned streams, the leaves, the falls, as if it were every day, as if nothing new happens under the sun, as if the answer is in a coded line. How sweet it is to lose oneself in a strand of spruce low on a mountain's ridge in the mid-morning sunlight for the sake of orange needles, numerous as the stars, to abandon the postcard town and its toy train, to dive down the gorge on the other side, to be swept away by the rapids through the ravines, and to be pushed off to the sea like a saltfish supplicant.
Oh, I love that ending. And how that last line cascades toward the sea. Yeah, really nice, Dave. Thank you so much. Our next reader, because I do see that Andrea Marcusa is here and Shira Musicant are both here. So we're going to let Andrea Marcusa make sure that you are unmuted. Andrea Marcusa's work has appeared in Gettysburg Review, Citron Review, Cherry Tree, Heavy Feather Review, and others. She's received recognition in a range of competitions, including Smokelong, Glimmer Train, Raleigh Review, and Southampton Review. Welcome, Andrea Marcusa.
Thank you.
Hey, what are you going to read for us today?
I'm going to read just a very short piece called Flowers Are Often Rooted in Dull Soil. And it just appeared in Litro. And actually, I just started in Smoke Long, and so I changed the ending of this in Smoke Long, and so this is the new ending. So I'm kind of thrilled because I like this ending so much better. Um, okay, flowers are often rooted in dull soil. She was so thankful for the sudden field of sunflowers. Stop, stop the car, she said. Ken gazed at her with a "what now" expression. She was out of the auto without a word and into the sea of bobbing yellow heads. They held the promise of something more for Cheryl than the empty road that she and on which she and Ken had been driving. Ken surveyed the massive field. That's a lot of yellow. Cheryl had always found herself entangled with men like Ken, who clung to her like stubborn burrs and were impossible to brush off. Little did they realize, Cheryl could almost hear the flowers singing, walking on sunshine. She waded further into the field and the thick stalks enclosing her with an unfamiliar embrace. She tilted her face to the rays of the sun and electric blue sky and swayed. Ken stood on the road, squinting in the bright light, searching. Cheryl? The sharp edge of concern in his words brought a peculiar satisfaction with each Cheryl. It eased what had earlier been brewing inside her while driving with Ken as he had droned on about aquarium fish, anti-chlorines, pH balancers. It wasn't what she'd imagined. She'd expected playful laughs, verbal foreplay. The centers of the flowers were velvety. She held her hand out and touched them. Ken called again. Each time he called, Cheryl measured the depth of his love by the level of worry in his voice. She studied the flowers, their perfect rows of petals, golden centers, such perfection and consistency. She buried her face in their centers and relished their softness against her skin. Ken stopped calling. Soon the field grew eerily quiet, and the thick greenery felt sinister. A single fly fluttered, but she was free. She peeked through the petals, looking for Ken. He was no longer standing on the road. She craned her neck to spot him. He was on the other side of the car, opening the door. He got in and started the motor. Cheryl sprang to her feet and raced towards him. Blossoms hit her arms, chest, face. Something she couldn't understand propelled her, something so huge she simply couldn't see or admit it to herself. Why are things only of value when they're at risk of being lost? She ran and ran towards the car and arrived just as it was pulling away. She banged on the trunk. Stop, Ken, stop. The vehicle halted. Then there was only the low growl of the engine and the acrid smell of exhaust. The motor shut off and the doors clicked as they unlocked, and she leaned on the trunk with both hands, catching her breath. She hopped in the car, fastened her seatbelt, and Ken put the car in forward. He remained silent. As she heard the car accelerate, she pulled down the sun visor on her side and peered into the mirror. She could see the sea of yellow begin to recede into the distance. The silence remained taut and thick with something she couldn't name. But in the mirror, she saw her face. Pollen clung to her cheeks, lips, and nose, covering her face in gold.
Yeah, what a great ending. Oh, I love that ending. Yeah, I was hoping for it. Actually, when she pulled the visor down, I thought, oh, I hope she has pollen all over her face. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Henry. I love that. Shira Musican, you're here, right? Lives and writes in the foothills of Santa Barbara. She is a 2022 Pushcart Prize nominee and has stories published or forthcoming in Santa Barbara Literary Journal, Star 82 Review, Bright Flash Literary Review, Flash Fiction Online, and elsewhere. Welcome, Shira. What are you going to read for us today?
Hi, good morning. I can't see me on the screen. I'm invisible, but I'm trusting you all can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, good. This is a 500-word short story recently written with the current prompts and suggestions. So some of you may have heard this. It's called Hold Their Names. A list of baby names that I made 2 years ago falls from my journal. I touch each one: Allie, Jessica, Chloe, Bree, Samuel, Jonathan, Evan. I would still choose these names. Carefully, I fold the paper up and return it to the pages, return the journal to its shelf. Things are prone to skittering away: dreams, youth, people, the cat, the wild animal outside before it is identified, fox, bobcat, or coyote. I try to name the disappearing as if naming can slow things down, confer possession, or at least understanding. So I put it on paper. One item begs for another. My bird list grows. The specifics of differentiation occupy my attention: the western towhee from the spotted towhee, the nuthatch from the creeper. I know this makes no difference to the birds themselves or to the universe. What I'm trying to say is that my naming matters to me. It catches up the departing, the dream, the bird before it flits away, the cat. Naming gives me certitude. It plants my feet on the ground. But I am quiet, not saying anything, not interrupting the football game flashing from the television until a commercial break allows him to sit back down, open his attention. Football is a religion for some. Was it a bobcat? That middle of the night screeching? See, I want him to tell me what he knows. I want to know. It won't bring the cat back, he tells me. Forget it. What time is dinner? I make soup. It is that kind of season, soup making. Chop, chop, carrots, celery, onion, sweet potato, chicken, all the ingredients in one pot. Throw in a bay leaf. Boil the sucker. I don't mean that. I do not feel hostile toward the soup or even toward the ingredients. I leave for a walk while the soup simmers. Turkey vultures circle and swoop in the evening thermals. It gets dark early now, but the sun still slides through the clouds, lighting my way. My shadow, long on the road, grows and shrinks. It is wavery and grotesque, but clearly rooted to my feet, taking up the light. The sun slips out of the sky. The football game is over. He is triumphant and reports, Rams, 17-13. My report is silent and written in my journal. Gravida 3, para 0. The cat's water bowl and food dish still sit on the kitchen floor. One of us will put them away. We sit down to dinner. Do you think it was the coyotes? I try to pin this down. It doesn't matter, he says. Let it go. Soup is good. But what I'm trying to say is that I have a different religion. I believe in gathering things up, writing them down, making lists, everything, even him. Man, husband, almost father, used to be lover, football fan, soup eater. I want to keep the man from slipping through my fingers, to keep it all from sliding away.
Fantastic. Love the confidence that you have in your reading. And I love how much it matters to your narrator. I think it's beautiful. Is Alyssa Field here? Alyssa, are you here? Okay, so we're going to save Alyssa for later. I hope she doesn't have to read last like always. Okay, so Annie King, I know, is here. Annie King is a queer author, artist, and activist from Michigan. Their work has appeared in Strange Horizons, Pigeonholes, Everyday Fiction, and others. Hi, Annie. How are you today? I'm sorry, Ani. I just
Good.
Ani King. Okay, so how are you today, and what are you going to read?
Good. So I'm going to read the last piece I had published at Pigeonholes before I ended up on like a 4-year my brain won't let me write break.
Mhm.
But I kind of unearthed it and was like, I'm actually still pretty happy with this. So this is called An Interesting Thing About Tom Hanks. An interesting thing about me. I associate nose whistles with Tom Hanks, even though I've never heard or seen Tom Hanks' nose whistle in a movie. It generally makes no sense that the two are related. Another interesting thing is that we share the same name, Thomas Jeffrey Hanks, but I go by Tommy. My grandma's nose whistles when she sleeps or is really into something on television. Because of this, you might say I think about Tom Hanks a lot. Grandma and I spend so many days together that you might say I think about Tom Hanks all the time. Not really all the time, because sometimes I'm out at the grocery store or on the internet at the library or riding the bus between these two places and home, and I wear my headphones. Even saying nose whistle now, I am thinking about Tom Hanks. An interesting thing about Tom Hanks, he has type 2 diabetes. My grandma has type 2 diabetes and she's bad about taking care of herself. So bad, in fact, that she has diabetic nephropathy. Her kidneys are failing. My favorite Tom Hanks movie is Big. Grandma has an old VHS copy that we watched together on the weekend. At least that is the right time to be thinking about Tom Hanks. If you haven't seen the movie, it's about a kid who finds a mechanical fortune teller named Zoltar and wishes he can be an adult, gets what he wants, has a great time on a giant floor piano, but then it's not quite what he expects. You might say this is the foundation for a good movie, not getting what you expect. If I had a chance to ask Zoltar for a wish, I wouldn't ask to be older or younger. I'd ask for my grandma's diabetes to be cured. And you might ask, why not wish for a lot of money so I could get her a state-of-the-art treatment and also do things like get a new TV and maybe a car. But I think granted wishes usually aim to trick you. I would only ask for something that helps someone. I think Grandma would be mad, though, if my wish cured her. She thinks consequences are important. She's a reap what you sow kind of person. An interesting thing about my grandma, she used to be a showgirl. She danced in Las Vegas and met Neil Diamond, but came back to Cincinnati when she had my mom. My mom went to prison when I was 3, and it's just been Grandma and me ever since. Grandma likes to show me pictures from when she was dancing because she likes to remember being thin. She always says it's important to love your body how it is, but she still spends a lot of time with those old pictures. We're both bigger people. In fact, we're both much bigger people. You might say that's why Grandma has diabetes, and I will probably get diabetes someday too. Most of what I know about Tom Hanks I learned at the library. I only use my phone for emergencies and music, which I download on the library's Wi-Fi since we can't afford the internet at home. I looked up Tom Hanks nose whistle, interesting things about Tom Hanks, and is Zoltar real? And that's how I found the Zoltar people. They call themselves the Secret Zoltar Society, which I think sounds like Grandma would say, a little overdressed for the occasion. The Zoltar people have an ugly website with testimonials about how they found the fortune teller in such and such town and had a wish come true, or know someone who had a wish come true, or heard that someone had a wish come true. For $9.99, I can join their secret society and I will get a text message if Zoltar is going to be in my area. They guarantee it will be the real Zoltar. They guarantee they will refund my money if I am not satisfied. They guarantee they will not refund my money if I get to make a wish and it doesn't come true. In the forums, I ask, has anyone been cured of a serial illness after finding Zoltar? Big B79 says, I've heard that it happens, but not to me specifically. I ask, what about diabetes? No one who answers has personally been cured of anything, but everyone believes Zoltar could do it, even diabetes. An interesting thing about diabetes, it's been around a long time, at least since 1500 BC. My grandma has been on insulin for as long as I can remember. She just started dialysis a few weeks ago. Grandma hates being hooked up to the machine 3 times a week. She hates sitting still. I try to sit with her the whole time, but sometimes I talk too much and she sends me away. Tommy, I'm not fit for people, she says, and pats my hand like she's sorry for being in a bad mood. I don't blame her. I would be in a bad mood too. In fact, I am generally in a bad mood when she's doing her dialysis. While we are sitting together watching Big and other movies, I think about Tom Hanks when her nose whistles, and I think about how I sent the Secret Zoltar Society a $10 bill for a text message that will tell me when Zoltar is in my area, and I worry that the text message will be too late.
Love it. A great woven narrative with lots of layers. There's lots to unpack there. A great relationship. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Ani. Welcome back, everybody. We're in the second round of our open mic for November, and these are the readers. We're going to have 4 readers now, and our first reader will be Suzanne C. Martinez, and then Emily Gray, and then Dawn Miller, and Kim Steutemann Rogers. I haven't seen Kim. Well, we'll keep Kim on the back burner. And and Claudia Montpere. You're here, Claudia, right? Because I saw you in the chat. Let's start with Claudia. Claudia Monpere's fiction and CNF appear or are forthcoming in Smokelong Quarterly a few times. The Forge, Tramp Set, Bending Genres, Atlas and Alice, JMWW, and elsewhere. She's been nominated multiple times for Best of the Net and a Pushcart and lives in San Francisco, in the San Francisco Bay Area. Welcome, Claudia. What are you going to read for us?
I'm going to read a piece that I wrote in response to Ingrid's math science session, which was such an amazing session.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I'm
gosh.
actually thinking about making the presentation available just to everybody because it was fascinating. I kept going, oh yeah, oh, that's interesting, and that's interesting. Yeah, okay, especially the Wordle analogy.
Oh
But
God, wasn't that great?
yeah, take it away, Claire.
All right, this is called Nursery. The great thing about the suffering hierarchy is you can play it anywhere, anytime. Although Alice and I decided that once a month is optimum. You don't have to be good at math or philosophy, but you have to be smart, which I am. Alice too. Our AP calculus teacher doesn't even bother to check our homework. What are the frickin' odds, he says. 2 sophomore geniuses in my class? Which we aren't, although we've been thinking about taking an IQ test. We are so Mensa. The sky is an ironic November blue when we arrive at the nursery, a short walk from school. The maples are a beautiful fractal, the predictable branching a response to chaos. Berries today, we decide, with a coin flip. I go first. I pick a dark violet berry from the Profusion Beauty berry bush. Daniel Chin's mother has breast cancer, I say. Stage 3. I roll the berry down the paving. Alice plucks a red chokeberry. Rhonda Sterling made herself throw up again in the 2nd floor bathroom. That's all you've got? I say. Alice shrugs. Just wait, she says and rolls her berry, trying to hit or overtake mine. She picks up both berries and hands them to me. I place them gently in a small container, ignoring a 3rd text from my mother telling me to Uber to the hospital. Repeat from last month. My heart thuds, the guilt graph flaming in my head. Next, a rose glow barberry, bell-shaped. It won't roll well, but I pluck it anyway. Paula Greer sucked off 3 athletes at a party last week. It's all over social, and the name calling is way worse than slut. A flash of something, sorrow, compassion, across Alice's face, which irritates me. The point is we remove ourselves. We control our emotions. My berry does not roll far. Alice chooses a holly berry. Let's see what kind of suffering she can serve up now. Matt Zander's dad gambled away their money and lost their house, and he and his mom and sisters have to move into his aunt's double wide. The aunt's a bitch, and she has diabetes and just sits around and eats. She says Matt has to go back to being a beef-loving American if he's going to move in. Alice's eyes flash. Neither of us likes Matt, but still, her berry wins. More berries, more stories. We have a lively debate as we begin to construct our suffering hierarchy. So much to consider. The nature and intensity of the suffering, how much the suffering increases or decreases as events change, finite limits versus infinity. When we're finally done, it's time for tree wandering. We both know where we'll end up. We stop by the deciduous trees with cool names, the jade butterfly ginkgo, the golden spirit smoke tree, the autumn moon. Another text. It's your mother, isn't it? Alice says. She knows everything. You should get going. Alice doesn't have a mother anymore, so she's protective about mine. Her mother left after everything. There was a postcard after the 1st anniversary, but nothing since. Come on, I tell Alice, I'm not going till we're done. We walk briskly, stopping at our tree. The sister ghost Japanese maple. Delicate orange leaves with pink highlights. prominent red veins. Next month will be the 2-year anniversary of Alice's sister's death. She overdosed on fentanyl. My sister is in and out of the hospital with stage 4 lung cancer. What are the odds? Alice and I say. But we'll never calculate them. Instead, we'll dig a hole in the ground with sticks. We'll place each berry in tenderly. We'll fill the hole with dirt, put flowers on top, and let ourselves feel. Then return to coolly observing our peers, to calculating with the sharp blue blade of numbers and graphs.
Excellent. Yeah, as people have said in the chat, such a layered narrative. And have you sent that to Ingrid yet?
No, I have to send it on because I think today or tomorrow is the last day. So I'll send it. Yeah.
It's a soft deadline. You're
Thank you.
Okay. Dawn Miller. Dawn Miller's writing appears or is forthcoming in The Forge, Fractured Lit, Cincinnati Review, Long Quarterly, Whale Road Review, Vestal Review, and elsewhere. She lives and writes on an acreage outside a very small town in Ontario of just about 3,000 people, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so you're out there all by yourself.
Yep. It's very quiet. Good for writing.
Oh, yeah. See, I just came back from Salento, Colombia, where you could walk 2 hours back into where nobody is. And I was telling Video Guy, this would be such a wonderful place to write. And then there were workers at a farm playing really, really, really loud country Colombian music. And I thought, yeah, you can't get away from the noise anywhere, but you can get away from the noise.
We do.
Okay, excellent. What are you going to read for us today?
I'm going to read a story that I wrote for a Smoke Long Sprint prompt, and it's going to be in Fractured Lit's Open Anthology. It's called The Girl Made of Dirt. The other girls laugh when she struggles to stand up in the ditch, her mouth edged with dirt. She braces for another blow, but they let her scramble away. And as their eyes bore into her back, she wonders if her shoulder blades poke strangely from her t-shirt, another mark against her. She runs home, mother at work, to her bedroom tacked with Hello Kitty and Taylor Swift posters, and into the welcoming arms of online messages and quickly snapped photos. Only she doesn't know it's not a sweet boy, not a good boy at the other end. A boy who'd slip a strand of her tangled hair behind her ear or cup her damp face so gently she could cry, and whisper not to worry about the other girls or the pain of days that follow her wherever she goes. A boy who'll tell her everything will be all right. She doesn't know the dark heart that hides behind the blue flicker of screen and murmurs, "Show me your tits, babe, show me. If you love me, you'll show me." She's used to being invisible, walking down school corridors, bumped by people named Tiffany and Brandon, kings and queens who reign the hallways. Only the next day, everyone glances at the images on their phones and stares at her. And she knows then it's over, that nothing can save her, that no one will cup her face and say everything will be all right, that she did it to herself. And if she scratches too hard, her skin will spill dirt. And so she slices the tender flesh on her thighs with a pin, and then a knife used to cut green apples, to let the dirt out. Always her thighs, so her mother won't see when she gets home at night exhausted. And later on, she sits with white-haired men in offices who talk nonsense and can't possibly understand what it's like to be so young and so old at the same time. How difficult it is to search for love and find only hardness. How the pain swells inside her like a big black balloon, but balloons only stretch so far before they burst.
Okay, thank you so much, Dawn. Yeah, and an interesting take on this subject. How did you think of cutting and the relationship to the dirt. When did that come?
I don't know. I probably because of the whatever the words were. It was a sprint prompt, and I had to use certain words. I always find I really respond to that, and it must have been a word that
Okay, perfect. And I always say, sometimes these random prompts, which we're actually going to have one tomorrow. But Sherry Flick, I asked Sherry, I said, look, I've got to write something for a competition. Can you give me a prompt? And she said, this and this and this and this and this have to be in the story. And I wrote it and it got long listed. But that is so important, just to like jostle the mind a little bit. And so sometimes these random prompts really work out well. Emily Gray is a Canadian writer as well, with work slated for publication at Blue Cactus Press and Hoot Review. She trail runs, loves soup, and is currently hard at work at a novella in Flash that was originally meant to be under 15K, but it is now out of control. What are you going to read for us today?
This is a piece that was born somewhere in the summer. I can't remember which smoke long exercise it was, but it came out of a smoke long summer, and it long listed for the Not Quite Right prize that's in Australia. And it's been a little bit cleaned up since then. And this is the first anybody has heard of maybe not the finalized version, but at least we're on the right track. All right. It's called Wishcraft. Normally, water cascades from the fountain spout like a golden umbrella. Mist shimmers, beads across my forehead like a glittery band of freckles. Today, the crowd packs around the stone basin, trampling the weakest. I don't doubt it's pure desperation, because we'll do anything to get close enough to toss our wishes into the tub. Normally, the wish water is knee-deep, but the plumber controls the flow rates and the basin volume. The plumber regulates our wishes, and all we can do is beg at his feet for a minute, a half minute, for 10 seconds at the edge of the fountain to pour out our hearts. My hands don't meet around the belly of Bobby Joe's stainless steel urn, and I have to keep a tight grip so he doesn't slide through my slick palms. The crowd will kick him. They'll crush him like he's a tin can, or worse, they'll spill him out so he's gone for good. So there's one less person in line, and my wishes will turn to powder in my mouth. I'll choke. I've seen it happen. I've heard hearts pop like soapy bubbles, and I never want to know how long a wasted wish would ring through my ears. Probably, no, definitely forever. The plumber is impatient. He prods the line of people with the head of his wrench, so we move like an assembly line of cattle. No one lingers at the edge of the fountain to see where their wedding rings land, or where their basketballs, volleyballs, golf balls stop rolling. No one knows which basin wall their glossy photographs drift to and plaster like wallpaper. And as I shuffle closer, closer, closer to the front of the line, I keep mouthing my wish so the words are as automatic as breathing. Severing the flow of wishers, the plumber cuts off the line. Go home, he says. Fountain is closed. Come back tomorrow, he says. I can't say for sure where in my body my blood starts boiling first, but watching this generic genie crank his wrench around the throat of the pipe, seeing the spigot dribble with spittle that he wipes with a rag, smirking, the corners of his mouth twitching, smirking, knowing none of us can steal any of his precious liquid, flashes through my face, so the ripe wish on my tongue burns my mouth. The king of the fountain traffics in wishcraft. Gold flakes from his gloves as he fishes for wallets and watches. His pockets jingle with rings and lockets while he stomps through the water, punting baseball gloves and teddy bears off the drainage grate. Golden water gurgles, swirls down, 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 sucking my wishes into the bowels of the sewer, and there's a split second, not long enough to register consciously, where all of us wishers choose if we want to be held hostage by the crank of a wrench. It's this moment, I'm sure of it, that unites our rabid desperation in a throbbing mob. This moment will be nothing but a feeling tomorrow, a blurry memory that I know happened but can't remember how. The plumber crawls up the fountain spout and perches like a fountainhead, trying to hold us back by negotiating flow rates, water pressure, and hours of operation. He doesn't want to die. He has a family. He thinks we can work this out, but as he's bartering with our wishes, someone twists open the closed pipe. Water gushes, rushes, shoots up the spout with so much force that the plumber levitates above the golden cascade of water. He floats long enough for a knot of fear to tighten in my throat, for regret to swell in my guts, because maybe he is the one true granter of wishes. But the fear, the regret, the tickle of wonder dissolves as he smashes down to the stone basin. We tilt our faces up like we're staring into the sun and let wish water rain over us as we trample the plumber's body. He runs red down the drain, and maybe someone will bring his wrench to the edge of the fountain and wish him back to life. Or maybe he'll just clog the pipe until something bigger comes along and pushes him out of the way. Or maybe nothing. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore. I don't need to worry about the plumber. So I fill up Bobby Joe's urn and he swims in pure wish liquid while I stand under the gushing fountain, letting the water soak me to the bone, plating my heart like an idol.
Wow, so much poetry in that. I love how the words just bang against each other sometimes. It really works with the theme. Okay, thank you so much. We are going to our next reader is Mario Aliberto. Mario Aliberto III lives in Tampa with his wife and daughters, and yet the dog runs the house. What kind of dog do you have? Have I asked you that question before, Mario?
I don't remember, but it's a mutt, like pit bull, black lab, like a mix. Really cute and adorable, though.
Yeah, cute, adorable. Okay, what are you going to read for us today?
All right, this is one I've been working on recently in the latest round of the workshop. So I don't remember if I came up with the title or the story first, but here it is. Alien Dick Pic. Her phone thrummed abruptly on her nightstand. A text notification, an image, not unexpected, but definitely unsolicited. A belch tasting of spoiled Moscato. All right then. She was in no rush to see a dick pic, but she might as well get it over with. She had met him at Janice's party, a little divorce celebration her coworker at the city pension office threw for herself at a wine bar downtown. There'd been no plan to meet anyone. The only plan had been to get in and get out without a panic attack. She teetered from one foot to the other on her heels, her sparkly cocktail dress riding up, a star field of glitter coating her bare arms where the fabric rubbed against her. She'd have traded anything to be at home, sober, reading a book, watching a movie. The pressure of mingling amongst a room full of strangers overwhelming, her social anxiety building and building until showing up to support one of the few people she spoke with at work felt performative. Well, all her social interactions were performative. This just more than most. Too many people, too much talking, too much wine. Impossible to tell who was there for Janice and who was just there. Eventually, she found herself cornered, scrunching her nose at the Merlot breath of a fidgety man whom she recognized from city planning, listening politely as he pontificated on his preference for the views in Sonoma over Napa, the beautiful expanse of night skies over vineyards, breathtaking stargazing, the universe and its mysteries. What was the strangest thing she had ever seen, he wanted to know. She entered his name into her phone as Mark, though she wasn't sure that was right. She didn't really care. He pushed his number on her after Janice stumbled over and made a drunken show of asking, "Darling, how do you survive being single? Never married? Crazy. No long-term relationships? Unbelievable. What do you do on Friday nights? Saturday nights? What the hell do you do for the holidays? What's the plan for, gasp, the rest of your life?" It would have been a terrible mistake, she knew, but she might have gone home with Mark, or whatever his name was, if he had asked, just to shake off the feeling of alienation Janice doused her with as surely as if she had thrown a glass of wine in her face, as if she were inhuman for choosing to be partnerless, as if going to a movie or dining out by yourself or wanting to no-show a stupid divorce party made you the human equivalent of Pluto, composed primarily of ice, downgraded from planet status, exiled from the group. Mark asked her to text his phone so he could have her number. With a wink, he promised he would send her a photo of something she'd like. She dry heaved at the thought of his penis. She was more than a little relieved when he didn't ask her to join him for coffee or a nightcap before saying goodnight. Now, his text. She didn't have to open it, but isn't that what normal people did? She didn't know. It was so tiring always being made to feel like the odd one out. She readied herself for a dick pic, a phallic nightmare, a mess of pubes and a beet red tip as if ashamed of its owner. Except nothing could have prepared her for what she saw, which was most definitely not a dick pic. Still, she couldn't say the image was any less shocking. A picture taken from the ground looking up at a black canvas of sky, dark clouds silvered at their edges, and peeking through the clouds, what? A metal ball? An eerie light encircling it, an ethereal glow? Some sort of blimp or drone? No. Instinctively, she knew the ball wasn't either of those things. Another text followed. What do you think? The silver ball could be a UFO. That's what she thought it was supposed to be. It looked small as far as she could tell without more perspective. If aliens were human size, it probably accommodated a single traveler, a tiny world unto itself. What do you think? Here's what she thought. Nothing more than to sail across the universe in that little silver ball, past crab nebulas and spiral galaxies, supernovas and black holes, drinking all the wonders of space unfiltered. And after traveling billions of light years in complete and utter solitude, with only her thoughts as company, at last come upon an inhabited planet, hover above the blue-green world, hide in a cloud, look down on all those people, their neediness, their judgment, all their bullshit, and decide with the utmost surety and confidence, no, I'm good up here.
Oh, wow. I never even muted myself. I was rapt. Thank you. Thank you, Mario. I love how you set up the expectation at the beginning. And so we are with you waiting for the dick pic. Okay, but yeah, it was, thank you. Great. Our next reader is Suzanne C. Martinez. Suzanne C. Martinez's fiction has appeared most recently in the Black Mountain Review, the Hong Kong Review, and Sledgehammer Literary Journal, among others, and was nominated for Pushcart Prizes, the Best of the Net, Best Short Fictions, is that Best Small Fictions, Suzanne? During the last few years. She was a finalist in the 2023 Tart's First Fiction Award for her linked short story collection. She lives in Brooklyn. Hi, Suzanne. What are you going to read for us today?
Well, I'm actually going to read a story that I wrote during food with the prompt, Food as Time Traveler.
Yeah.
Back in June of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And this is called The Art of Butterscotch Pie. Also, it's quite seasonal. Our mother claimed when we were kids, she was forced to cook dinner for her family of 7 every night from age 12 until she married our father, who also expected dinner every night. She always cooked with great resentment. Some things cannot be forgiven. She was an artist in her heart, destined for more extraordinary things. Our mother was a terrible cook. We dreaded her chili mac, which was concocted from equal parts ground beef, elbow macaroni, canned tomatoes, and raw onion, baked in a large casserole and served 4 days running, sometimes 5. Our dad was a traveling salesman, so TV dinners were often served when he was away. Vegetables were cooked beyond death. Roast beef was gray. She ladled diluted tomato paste mixed with dry oregano over limp vermicelli. We were good Catholics, so Fridays were fish. Baked haddock or halibut defrosted from a block of ice, served with cucumbers and sour cream, mashed potatoes, and often cauliflower, a white dinner. Cooking was a daily chore she performed to keep us alive. As kids, we never actually saw her cook. We were ushered out of the kitchen and told to play in our bedrooms until the meal was on the table. It was her alone time when she enjoyed a cocktail or 2 or more. The kitchen was her domain and her prison. For some unknown reason, she never taught us to cook. We learned on our own by trial and error after we grew up. I still remember the frantic phone call from my sister in college asking what to do after cracking open an egg. But for Thanksgiving or Christmas, our mother would always make her unforgettable butterscotch meringue pie from scratch. The battered box of brown sugar sitting on the counter was the giveaway that a pie was coming. She energetically wielded a hammer to pulverize the sugar. She'd measure the flour, water, and shortening by eye for the pie crust and patiently stir the eggs, milk, cornstarch, and brown sugar to make the custard using proportions stored in her head. It's a mystery how she learned to make this cherished treat. Once she'd baked the crust to a golden brown, she poured in the thickened butterscotch filling, followed by a stiff layer of severely whipped egg whites. Then she'd place the pie under the broiler to brown the tips of the meringue, standing proudly on top. The completed pie took our breath away every time. It was our mom's best thing, her sole kitchen triumph. We can still close our eyes and imagine its symmetrical perfection displayed on the counter before she cuts anyone a piece. We inhale its unique aroma and savor its velvety sweetness with the perfect crunch of the crust. Filling our mouths with domestic contentment and comfort, we forgive her the hundreds of awful dinners she served us all year for one piece of that pie. Butterscotch pie was her pièce de résistance. She was an artist.
Oh, and I can relate to that story. I won't go into details because on the off chance that my mother might see this. But yeah, thank you so much, Suzanne. And it is a sort of a walk down like a whole life and really good use of the prompt. Welcome back, everybody. We're here in the third round of readers, and we're going to start with Mary Cowie. Mary Cowie is a flash nonfiction writer from Western Massachusetts. Her work has previously been published in The Sun magazine. That's a great place to publish. Mary, what are you going to read for us today?
This is called Resting Mourner Pose. When your 5 bereavement days are used up, tell yourself that it will be good to return to work, that teaching will keep your mind from getting sucked down the mud hole of grief now that your siblings and children have all gone home. The students pat you gently, and one gives you a hand-scrawled card that says, "Im Shri for you're lost." You feel lost, but school is so familiar after all these years. Just focus on being with the children, finding comfort in the routine. Be grateful for their kindness. And yet, you can't help but feel the large slab of granite you strain to balance on your head and shoulders, pressing down on you all morning. You're right, it is exhausting. When the children go out to recess, lock the classroom door, turn out the lights, close the shades. Set your timer for 15 minutes. Push your chair out of the space between your desk and the low counter with the sink. Out of the closet, take 2 of your mother's old shawls with her name tag carefully stitched on each of them, a vestige of your naive attempt to keep her things tethered to her in the nursing home. Lay the nubbly blue-green one, folded in half lengthwise, on the tiles that cover the concrete floor. Supporting yourself with a hand on the counter if you need to, lower yourself to a sitting position on the shawl, then recline, legs outstretched, with your feet pointing to the classroom door and your head under the clock. Take the second shawl with the tan and rust-colored swirls, also folded in half lengthwise, and starting at your toes, spread it over you. Point and flex your toes a few times and extend the crown of your head toward the clock. Rock your body gently from side to side, letting your hips settle. Let your pelvis cradle you like a baby. Yes, the floor is hard and cold, but be grateful that most importantly, it is horizontal and you can rest here. Appreciate the shawls below you and resting on you, these thin shields of your mother's love. Let them become heavy on your body. If you need support under your knees or lower back, feel free to place some picture books or a forgotten woolen hat there. Now take the slab of granite and arrange it from just below your chin to your calves. Although it is tempting, do not place the slab over your face. You still need to breathe. Now, breathe in deeply. This is hard with the granite on your chest, but notice how strong you are, that your inflating lungs can lift the massive rock. And on the exhale, lower it gently. Summon a hot flash now, like the sun on a riverbank, to warm it. Let the weight of the granite press down on you, and let your organs become melting cheddar cheese, and the shawls become buttered sourdough bread. At your own pace, breathe in and out deeply, letting the weight press you like a panini, welding you back together. Close your eyes and rest as you melt. When the timer rings, or when you feel complete, open your eyes. Lift the slab of granite off your chest and lean it against the counter. Sit up slowly, coming back into your body. Fold the shawl that covered you, then inhale your mother's scent as you give it a kiss. Coming now into the table position, rock back onto your knees. Slowly rise to the mountain pose. Hinging at the hips, let your arms hang down and pick up the other shawl with both hands, lifting it as preciously as an infant. Fold it, then hug it tightly to your chest. Place both shawls back in the closet. Return to the sink. Place your hands together in the prayer position. Bow to yourself and to your grief. Lower your chin to your chest, and then, rolling one vertebra at a time, bend until your face is over the sink. Run cool water over your hands and wash the tear trails from your cheeks. Let the rough brown paper towel bring you back to the present as you open the shades, turn on the lights, and welcome the children back again.
Excellent. What a moving, innovative use of the imperative. Really, really moving. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Frances Orrick. Frances Orrick's stories appear or are forthcoming in Smoke Lawn Quarterly, New Ohio Review, and Gone Lawn. Frances lives in rural France, and I have an announcement. Frances, we've nominated the story that we published in Smoke Lawn for the push cart. Surprise. How are you doing today, Frances? Oh, are you still here? Oh my God! If you're not here,
I'm still here. Well,
yeah, surprise! I just occurred to me that I could just surprise you because we haven't announced it yet, but we've nominated it for the push cart. So congratulations!
that's so cool. And
so we shall only be glad. And so I hope you're glad. So
I'm so glad, but so surprised because that's my first ever story published, which I know you know. And it's only the second story that I submitted. So wow.
Okay, so now don't get so emotional now that you can't read. Okay, so what are you going to read for us today?
I'm going to read something that's really not published, like the rest of my work. And, it's kind of seasonal in a way because it's about the Christmas story from a different angle, part of the Christmas story. Okay. It's called Mary Didn't Need To. Mary didn't need to pee on a stick. She knew the way oceans know they hold krill, the way a hillside holds its dead. She walked with her knowledge, worked with it, collected water, crushed olives, baked the bread her mother would have taught her if her mother hadn't died, hadn't ended at her becoming. Her aunt had kept her, briefly, then Elizabeth, her cousin, 10 years older. Elizabeth had taught Mary certain things in that house. Where to find salt, where to look when tears are threatening, up, up. Where to press to stop a sneeze. Joseph's name, where to press. And Joseph, friend of Elizabeth, was kind. Everyone said it. Good with his hands, an important skill for life, for love, for Mary. He showed her the patterns in the grain of an olive tree, promised himself to her. His neighbors didn't object when he brought her home, anything but another lone orphan in the village. And Joseph was an honorable man. Everyone knew that. Mary, the betrothed, sounded more hopeful than Mary, the orphan. She made Joseph's bread. She made Joseph's baby. Not mine, we can't say that, you know the rules. He holds her small hands, his feet planted firm on the sawdust floor. Betrothed does not mean wed. Ours, then? She carries his shocked hand to where her knowledge swims. He runs the other over his beard. He is trying not to panic. Mary, we must go where nobody knows us. Where? David's city. She imagines the journey, the heat, the cold, the sprawl, the checkpoints, the soldiers' questions, the smells. She will not go. We might be okay here, accepted. We are promised. Joseph doesn't know if Mary is being brave or idiotic. Can I see? Mary pulls her dress tight. Still, he cannot tell. He shakes his head. How can you know? The hill of her body knows it's dead. Mary traces the edge of Joseph's workbench with one finger. She thinks of her father, a shepherd long gone. Happy in his hills, a vision only for olive blossom and wolf scent, he visited her once, 6 years old, alone in her aunt's kitchen. He'd spoken to her then of angels, whispered of wings by the heat of the stove there. His shepherd friends, waiting at the door, had collected him when his voice had risen too loud. His declarations of flame and starlight had been shushed and led away. An angel told me. Mary. Joseph neither sighs nor smiles. He has heard tell of her father. An angel came to tell me I would bear God's son. Don't. They could hear. So let them. She takes a pinch of those curled shreds abandoned by his plane, cherubic twists pressed tight between her finger and thumb. She pictures the solemn faces of her neighbors, imagines the villagers turned mob, seeking stones. What could they do to her? She cannot meet his eye, she knows. They'll say you're mad. They had let her father rave in his hills. They had loved him in their way, but not adulterers. First, she will check with Elizabeth. She will tell her of an angel, gauge her reaction. Recently, Elizabeth has not been straight with Zachariah. Soon she may also have need of wings. Yes, Mary will risk it. Anything for the salt of her sea, anything for the dead of her body.
Oh, actually, yeah, I never muted myself again. Thank you so much, Frances, for that, making that story new to us. That's excellent. Now, we do have two more readers, so please stick with us. Michelle Morose is a Detroit area pediatrician. Her flash fiction and poetry have appeared recently in Vestal Review, New Flash Fiction Review, Gemini, Bending Genres, Burning Wood Literary Review, Literary Journal, Midwest Review, Prose Online, Best Microfiction, and Unbroken. She serves on the board of Detroit Working Writers. Michelle, what are you going to read for us today?
It's a flash that I wrote in Smoke Long, but I can't remember what the prompt is, and it's going to appear in the MacGuffin. I was having a little technical difficulty earlier, so I'll try to read a little faster. The first thing the new people did was to tear down that chicken shed. The iron handle came loose when the girls pushed the door open. They listened for scurrying sounds, and finding the coop quiet, entered. It was dark despite the August sun, gaps in the boards, and the hole in the tin roof where rain had dripped for decades, rusting a watering can with its bent spout. It smelled dusty and organic, as if some buds had burst through the cracked cement floor. "Is there such a thing as chicken ghosts?" asked Carrie, the youngest. "No, of course not," said Minnie, the oldest. Then Gigi, the middle child, slid a finger down the back of Carrie's neck, and Carrie screamed and turned to run, tripped over the wheelbarrow, and cut her knee. And Gigi said, "Oh no, it's rusty. Now you'll get lockjaw." Minnie said, "No, you won't. We get shots for that." But Gigi said, "Yes, you're going to kindergarten pretty soon and you'll get lots of shots." Then Carrie started crying. Then Grandma came out of the house and said, girls, get out of there." So they went out back and climbed on the old Edsel with a sapling growing through its floorboards. And then we're fast forwarding to them as adults. Minnie wheeled Grandma out to the center's back patio. The granddaughters caught Grandma up on news of the great-grandkids. Then Grandma wanted to talk about chickens, how she sold the eggs, how everyone in town wanted roast chicken for Sunday dinner, the back kitchen a flurry of dressing, scalding, plucking. Minnie said she read that chickens have a second balance center in their sacrum, and that's why they can run after decapitation. Gigi talked about Mike, the headless chicken, who lived for years, fed with a dropper. Carrie said she'd be so worried about salmonella, she couldn't imagine processing all those chickens with children around. The aide brought Grandma chicken cacciatore at dinner time. Not as good as hers. Her Henry would joke about catching the chicken every time she served it. She'd caught enough chickens, enough to keep the farm afloat as the big farms encroached. They ended up selling off parcels of land until the new auto plant opened, and Henry got his union job. She would step on the wings, the feet, grasp the chicken's neck, and cut with a knife in just the time it took to say a rushed Hail Mary. And then she could laugh as her son chased the flapping feather dance.
Again, I never muted myself. Thank you so much, Michelle. So I was sort of raised on a farm, and I have lots of chicken stories like that. And so it resonates with the live little animal that you have to cut up. Oh my goodness, chicken stories. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Now, our last reader is Amy Marquez. Amy Marquez has been known to desecrate books by writing in margins and making erasures. She has been nominated for multiple awards and has visual art, poetry, and prose published in many lovely journals. And Amy, would you like to tell us about your new project before you read, or would you like to read?
Which, the new book or the duets?
The duets.
The duets. So I accidentally stumbled into art in my life.
Mm.
And I have been teaching myself to do it with the joy of and the technique of a kindergartner. So I use random things and break stuff and pull stuff out of the trash. And my husband learned to make coffee for me this week because I couldn't make it myself. And he used the wrong coffee the other day because I actually have bad coffee in the kitchen that I use to make art. That's coffee for water color, not for drinking because it's yucky. So in stumbling into art, I ended up, again, accidentally publishing a couple of collaborations, and then I decided to do it on purpose. So many of the people here are part of this duets project. So in January or February, an anthology is coming out with some of my favorite stories from some of my favorite writers. And I already have a growing list of who I'd like in duets too. So each of the micros has a little art piece to go with it and a little bit of behind the scenes. And we're making it like a album. So there's a flip side, the side B, where we get to hear about what's behind the scenes. So I'm very excited about it. And I'm so grateful to everybody who let me use some of their stories. It's been a delightful project.
Okay.
I'm excited.
What are you going to read for us today? Thank you for waiting so long.
My pleasure. I had a hard time deciding and I actually kept switching, but I'm going to read one called Aftertaste. And it's a character I've been writing a little bit about. I don't know where my stories are born. They're a little more like Frankenstein's monster, where bits and pieces are patched together. But I know some parts of this were born in some smoke long prompts, and they ended up coming together. Aftertaste. After her weekly visit with grandbaby Alice, Nan marches off to lunch. She isn't mad. That's just how she walks now. She no longer glides. Isn't sure if she ever glided. Every step has her feet come fully off the ground and over ubiquitous obstacles, pebbles, sidewalk cracks, fallen leaves. No shuffling. Shuffling cometh before the fall. She hasn't fallen. Not recently, anyway. But as she marches, her upper body angles forward in a constant tilt, counterbalancing the weight of the world, dangling her continuously on the edge of a trip. At the restaurant, Nan orders mashed potatoes. Safe food, bland food, non-confrontational food. There's a smudge on her plate, so she wipes the edges with a napkin and arranges the mashed potatoes into a perfectly round mound. She comes here because this is the kind of place where the staff asks no questions. There aren't many places like this anymore. These days, good customer service is too often equated with familiarity. But Nan would rather not say if she has any other plans for her evening. She doesn't. Or whether today is a special occasion. It isn't. Or even whether or not her meal is to her satisfaction. It is. All she wants is to survive a meal she didn't prepare in dishes she won't have to wash, surrounded by enough elevator music to drown out the chewing and throat clearing and coughing and spilling and clacking. She focuses on the potato. Carbs are the best choice to mask the aftertaste of dissension. Disagreements had once been Nan's bread and butter. She'd been a mediator, a facilitator. She'd helped so many people over countless debacles. But it's so much more difficult to be one of the parties in the conflict. Today, Alice's parents had argued about audiobooks. Are they even books? Should they allow Alice to listen and call it reading? Will print books go the way of cursive and slates and drawing on sand? And are those who disagree with us crazy, stupid, or do they maybe have a point? They always have a point, Nan knows. Sometimes it's a sharp point, and as she processes and digests, it pricks and pokes at her from the insides. Sometimes their ideas melt in her mouth and wash down her throat like a glass of sweet iced tea, only to sink her stomach and churn her insides until she manages to purge herself of the poison. She scoops up some of the potato and watches as a thin sliver of steam rises from the spoon. Alice's parents don't believe in Yukon Gold potatoes. There are many things they do and don't believe in. Nan can't ignore them, can't alienate them either. She'd been vocal once, when they said they were in love, when they'd said they were moving across the country, when they said she could either treat them like grown-ups or never see them again. To think that she'd once thought that retirement would mean she could relax in soothing consensus. After years of no family trips or awkward Thanksgiving dinners, here she was walking on eggshells to preserve a relationship she thought she'd lost forever. But the minute they'd introduced her to little Alice, they'd become a family again, for better or worse. The mound of potatoes had become a cold, uneaten landslide. Nan drinks her water and knows that it'll only make things worse. She's been swallowing questions all morning, and they grow inside of her until she wonders whether she'll have time to get home or if she should suffer the indignity of using the restaurant's powder room. Who gets to decide how much is too much and whether it's free speech or just old-fashioned rudeness? Should books and ideas be banned along with old-fashioned words? Is it wrong to obfuscate past mistakes to keep the peace? Or does unacknowledged history fester and chafe until tiny interruptions abort ideas and explode entire minefields? Nan places 2 $10 bills next to her uneaten food. It should be enough. The mashed potatoes couldn't soothe her nerves this time. She marches to the powder room, scanning the ground before each step, praying she won't run into a server with a tray. Fully clothed, Nan sits on the closed toilet lid, pulls out her notebook, and catches each question as it regurgitates out of her and glues it to the notebook before it can splatter to the floor. Is nut milk even milk? Is it okay to sleep in, or should we all be up at the crack of dawn, even though there are no cows to milk or chickens to feed? Is whistling sweet or annoying? Is it okay if babies listen to pop music instead of Beethoven? Does it matter if we place a slightly unwashed juice bottle into recycling, or does it contaminate the whole lot? Should all lullabies be screened for harmful messaging? Not everything makes it into the notebook. She can't always control the flow. If she'd been home, she'd have thrown up all her words into a basket to be sorted out later. She's not home. She gazes at the splattered mess on the floor. Unschooling and art for art's sake and gender and school shootings and gun laws and pronouns and privacy and healthcare and lawmaking and language and true crime and porn and history and science fiction and whether or not it's a cruelty to bring more children into the world. She should scoop it up. She shouldn't leave her mess for someone else to clean up. She should stuff it back down her throat, keep it down, digest it, let it grow her, strengthen her, maybe destroy her. But she can't. She marches away, emptied, but no lighter.
Wonderful. Love that list story and all the Nan's questions. Oh my goodness. Yeah, works really well. Thank you so much, everyone. We are 16 minutes over, but I'm not in Germany right now, so I guess I can be a little looser with time. But I'm so glad that you stayed with us, and thank you to everyone who read. Wonderful variety of work this time. I was fascinated by everyone's work. Tomorrow, your 4th writing task for November goes live, and it's a bit of a choose this and that type of thing. So I hope you have fun with it. And you should have already received your email about your small groups for December. Our collection for January, I'm not sure if you got that far in the email, is Sherry Flicks, Whiskey, etc. And we're still working out whether her publisher will offer a discount, but I will tell you about that immediately, so don't run out and buy it yet. There is a digital version of it for people who do not live in the United States, who do not want to pay $4,000 for postage. So we're still working on that, and I will definitely send you an email about that as soon as I know. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today, and I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you in the workshop. Bye-bye, everybody.